Okay, so this is what it looks like after this initial wash. I'm gonna let this dry a little bit because this is enamel. We gotta let this dry before I go to the next step. But this looks really good. So now I'm gonna show you. So if I turn this over, so like if you look at it like this, it looks pretty normal. You know, it's got nice shading and stuff. But if I turn it upside down, you'll see it looks really kind of wonky because that's where I sprayed the black going from the bottom side up. But you don't see it that way. So it's a really easy trick. A lot of painters use it to get just some initial shadowing or highlighting and stuff. It's to spray the top down with a lighter color and then from the bottom up a darker color. And that just kind of establishes your shadows initially. So this is going to dry down a little bit. You can kind of see here on the top where it's dried already a little bit. That's kind of what it's going to look like after it's dried. So we're going to let this go for a little bit. Once this dries, I will seal it with some Krylon matte, and then I'll go in with a darker wash, just kind of down in the really low crevices and stuff, and kind of repeat this process, but just concentrating on the low areas to bring those out. And then, well, let's see what happens. Let me see if I can do it right now. Well, it's kind of wet. We'll do like let's see if a wet on a wet technique. So this brush has let me see, I've got some cups over here. So having an enamel, can't put lacquer thinner in there. That would be bad. Need to wash this brush out a little bit. Because this brush is, even though it's old, it's good for this kind of process because it's just crappy. It's good for doing these big washes. I'll just wash it out a little bit. Well, since we're here, let's see what happens. I'm going to keep this rag. See, my hands are already a mess already. Messy hands means I've been busy painting. I'm going to get another crappy brush with a smaller brush. And we're going to go with some of this Starship enamel wash. This is darker. It's got some green in it. And I'm kind of hit these low areas. And I'm going to take my rag and dab it a little bit to blend it in. I'm going to add a little green to it, which will be nice. Not a whole lot. This may not show up. This. Dab, dab, dab. So I'm just kind of trying to accentuate some of the shades. This may not be dark enough for what I'm trying to accomplish. We'll see. If anything, I'll just add another little layer of tonality to it. You can see this kind of going here, and if it runs anywhere else, it's not that big of a deal. So it can be a little more selective on where I apply this. Actually, I kind of like doing this with the other layer not quite dry because it blends in real nice. It's pretty natural. It kind of mixes in with that first color. And just soften up the transition with the rag. It's pretty subtle, but it's there. This base won't be done until after I get the boots done because I'll do the boots next, then I'll put them on the base and I'll do some weathering and we'll tie it all in together. So the boots have some dirt on them. I just got that enamel wash in my mouth. Yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck. So what happens when you put the paintbrush in your mouth after you've dipped it in your material. So actually I have to be careful because I'm starting to take off some of the old other wash. So I'm starting to lift it a little bit. So maybe I'll just dab it like this instead of using the rag. So I'm activating the wash underneath. That's why I usually typically seal these so you don't do that. So you don't activate your previous work, but it's alright. Kind of go in here and stipple it on. Excuse me. I haven't eaten this morning. My stomach's growling. I heard that because the mic's right on my chest. I heard it about my stomach. That's pretty funny. A little too much there. Just dab it off. I love these enamel washes, but what I don't like is when they're sticky. Enamels are sticky paints. Something I don't like about them. It's starting to look good. It's starting to get some shape to this thing. Hopefully you guys can see that. And as this dry, the blends will look a little softer. See, just getting some different tonalities in here. Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. The Starship wash. I love this color. Almost looks like oil, even though it's not called oil. It's got a very oily look to it. So after this project, I'm going to move on to a Wolverine that I've had in my possession for a very long time, and the collector is when I was kind of getting out of the private commissions and just doing the prototype stuff. He's one of the guys that just wanted to wait, so I've had it for a very long time, and so after this project, that's what I'm going to do next is the Capcom versus Marvel Wolverine. It's a great kit. It's got a little bit of work. I got to do a little more work than anticipated, but anyway, so I'm going to do this for a little while, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some of this fresh mud, and I'm just kind of randomly putting this in a few areas, dabbing it off. Nothing really no rhyme or reason to it, just kind of, again, just trying to answer different undertones, because, again, this is just the base work until I go in there and do some dry brushing to bring out the highlights and stuff. So what I'll probably do is after this dries, once I do this, I'll seal this. I keep saying I'm going to seal it. I haven't sealed it yet. That's how I work. A lot of times I don't have a plan. I kind of know what I want to get to, and I don't have a real plan. I just kind of start doing things. So my goal today is if I get this base done and the boots done, I'm in good shape. And then, depending on what time it is today, I may start working on the skin. Because I have to do the skin before I do the leather. I planned on doing the leather next, but he's got some leather on his torso and stuff. I can't do until after the skin because I got to mask it off. I actually want to go in with something a little bit darker in the crevices. I got some. Let's see what this does. I got some streaking rust effects. It's a little orange. I think I'm going to add some orange to it. Just here and there. Actually, I may sponge this on. Let me do that. Let me get a little sponge here. Hold on, I gotta move my camera to get to my sponges. Where are those guys? Where did I put them? Spongy, spongy, sponges. Oh, there they are. So I got a bag full of different sponges down here. We'll use this guy. I like the natural sponges better because they're more random than a man-made sponge. So I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna got too much on there. Let's sponge some of this on, see what this does. Again, just adds another tone. Kind of gives the effect of maybe some. That's looking good. That's what I do, guys. I just kind of wing it. I wing half the shit I do. I wing. It's like so far it seems to be working pretty good. So we'll just keep going. We'll just keep doing that. I've yet to seal this, so I'm still working kind of wet on wet. This will give a little more interesting texture to the piece, I think. And again, this is all just going to be underneath the surface. It's looking pretty good. Take most of it off because I don't want a big blotch of it anywhere. I can always wipe it off if I get too much in the spot. Okay, this is looking pretty good, I think. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the base color. I do want to seal this next because I think I want to go in and do some of my dry brushing next, and then I'll typically go in at the very end and add some more shadows with pigments and stuff, or I may go in with the airbrush and do a little bit of that. Maybe with the airbrush, so with some transparent oil or some transparent dark brown or something. But I think the next step is I gotta let this dry. I gotta let it seal. This is enamel, so it's gonna take a little while to dry. But I think I want to go in and do some of my dry brushing, and then go from there. So it's dry, maybe 15-20 minutes. I do have some errands to run today, so I could seal it and go do those. But I'd like to kind of get this base knocked out before I go do any of that stuff. Hold on. As I say, I thought I had a what I got? Let's look at. Oh, I got these garage paints. Dark rust. Again, what I'm kind of struggling with right now is I wish I had more depth in the shadows. So I think I'm gonna add sea gray. Not that. Jet black. Dirt. I'm looking at my colors I have here for GarageKits.us. Weathering set. That's kind of what I just put on. This is an acrylic. I wouldn't play well with this anyway. I'd have to seal it because it's acrylic paint. It would just bead on top. It wouldn't. It would not stick without sealing it first. So I can't do that. So in case you don't know, you can't put an acrylic directly on top of an enamel. It'll just bead. It won't mix. So you have to seal it with a lacquer. of the lacquer or an acrylic varnish. Otherwise, your acrylic paint will just bead right off. It won't stick at all. I thought I had. I know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of a pigment that I have, not a wash. I thought I had a darker wash, so I can go in there and kind of do some more accentuating with. But it's a pigment that I'm thinking of that I got. Get one more of the Starship wash. I'm going to go in here. So I want this relatively dark to get ready for dry brushing. Okay, anyway, I'm going to leave it alone because I'm not getting the results I want right now. So I'll come back after I seal it. Alrighty, so I seal this with some Krylon matte and we let it dry for a few minutes. Then I'm going to go in and start doing some dry brushing. I'm going to start out with some Golden Acrylics Neutral Gray. And then we're going to start adding some colors to that. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of this. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit of white to it too. Actually, let's do this. I got a little bit of Titan Pale Green. It's really white. It's got a little bit of green in it. I'm just going to add a little touch of that to that. Again, we want to get some different tones than just gray in here. So I got some of that in there. We're going to mix this up. See how bright it is. Kind of want a mid-tone grayish color. This has just a teeny tiny bit of green in it. And then when I do this, I need a paper towel to get most of it off. Just kind of got too much on there. Just real light kind of come over this, hit the tops of everything. Using mostly the flat part of the brush. Use the flat part of the brush, you just really hit the tops of everything. You're trying to use the bristles, you'll get down in the crevices. It'll kind of destroy some of the work you did. It's okay if you get a little bit down there, but you know, you want to keep all those shades and everything we did. I'm working with top-down motion to simulate the light hitting it. And we'll progressively lighten this up. And this will darken as it dries too. You lift it up and get darks and bottoms. Have a little bit of these. Pretty good. I'm gonna go back in with just a little bit of this, a little bit more of this pale green to this, to that mixture. just going to hit the tops. Bring top down. Not sure if I'm on camera there. I'm just lifting this up so I can get the rocks on the underside a little bit. Again, I'm not going back and forth on this. I'm just working top down. These tops, I'll go on the top. I'll go back and forth. When I get to the side here, I go top down. From here, I'm going to add white to this. A little bit of white. Just keep mixing into the same mixture I got over here. Just lightening it up progressively. So this is a really light, very light gray. You can see I'm just using the flat part of the brush. Top part, so burn it up quite a bit. Okay. It's looking pretty good. It's still pretty flat overall. I need to go back. I'll go back in with the airbrush and some pigments and hit the shadows again. Yeah, a little more white. So it'll be closer to pure white. One more level. And I'm just, you can notice I'm not sealing these, I'm just going right on top. Now this is basically pure white. Even though it's pure white, it'll dry down. It'll look like a gray, and it's still showing all those tones I put down a little earlier. And one more level, and then we're going to seal this. And then we'll go in and hit the shadows one more time, and I think we'll be good. We want this kind of outcropping the brightest. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So we got some nice highlights in there. I think all I gotta do is go back in now and hit the shadows. We'll see, maybe do that with pigments. I love pigments. All right, that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna seal this and we'll come back with some pigments. Okay, so I'm gonna hit that really lightly with the Krylon matte or flat. So if you dust it on real light, it comes out nice and flat, and it got a nice texture for some pigments to stick to. Excuse me. So let's see what we got. I've got a pretty standard few colors I use. I like Black Smoke. Graveyard Dirt's a really good one because it's got some brown in it. What else we got in here? We got some Dark Earth, Light Dust, some Vietnam Earth. Got some orange in it. So I think we'll stick with what I normally do. Graveyard Dirt's like my favorite color for this kind of thing. So I got my little shitty brushes here I use for pastels and pigments. Actually, that's not what I want. I want something a little darker. Rocket Exhaust is good. It's pretty dark. Black Smoke. Black Smoke may be better. So I'm going to get some on my brush here, and I may have to go with an airbrush. Let's see. Pigments are very messy. But right there, if I just do that, and that little crevice right there already makes a big difference. So it's real kind of deep like that. I'll do it kind of dark. And it was not so. And just kind of feather it out. Okay, you can tell right there already. That's a nice little bit of depth to the rocks. So I got one brush where I apply it, and I got another brush over here. I'm just kind of using it to feather the effect out. So I kind of put it where it's the shadow's deepest, and then I use the other brush and I feather the effect out, and I can really kind of pinpoint where I want the shadow to go. Zoom in a little bit here. like right here, it's kind of a deep shadow. Put some pigment in there and then use a softer brush to kind of feather it out. Yeah, now we're looking like something. Now we're getting somewhere. So I'm going to do this for a little while. This will take a little bit of time to do because there's a lot of details in here. I think you get the kind of the gist of it. So what it's like here, and I'll take it and I'll just dab this and I'll bring this shadow out a little bit. But you can see it has a lot of shape and definition to everything this step does. So when I get done with this, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. All right, and this is where we are. So I went in with the black smoke. I also went in with a little of the Vietnam earth, and I mixed that in with some of it to add a little brown tinge to the shadows. I think we're looking pretty good here. I'm pretty happy with this. So I think we're gonna put this to the side for now until I get the boots painted, because once the boots are on there, then I'll add some more weathering to the boots and around the base. The boots, I'll add some weathering to the base around the boots. So I have to pull up my references because I can't exactly remember how these are supposed to go paint-wise. Let's see. Oh, I'll see if I put it in the correct way. So I'm going to pull up my references and I'll come back. All right, so what I got here is I took the boots and I sprayed them with some Krylon black. It's flat black, but I put it on kind of wet, so it dried kind of satin. So the first thing, so we got two things, materials. We got metal on the top here, and then we got like leather sole here. I'm gonna do the metal first because it's gonna be dry brushing and stuff, and then I'll hand paint the leather. So this will dry for about 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start out dark and go light. Where's steel? I'm getting low on some of these colors. Where's steel? I'm gonna take some metal color steel, like this. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of black, and because I don't want it too bright. Take some of this metal color steel. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of black in it. Maybe. If this one's too squirt out. My bottle's clogged. Let's try it again. There we go. All right, so a little black, a little steel. That's in my thing. I got some black and steel mixed in there. Get a brush. Mix that up. I'm gonna add some more black to it. There we go. I want a nice dark metallic. Okay. I'll just use this crappy towel to wipe it off. This brush is actually too small. Maybe a bigger brush. Let's use this guy. A nice kind of black metallic. I'm just kind of going to start off with a dark metallic, then I'm going to work our way up. I'll zoom in there a little bit. Doing the metal first because I can, that way I can do the dry brushing without worrying about getting it on painted leather. So it's got some nice texture in here. I want to bring that out. So right away it's not too obvious that this is a metallic, but it is. And then once I'm done with this, I'll add a little more steel to it and work my way up. But so this has metallic and this doesn't. You can tell the difference. That's pretty good. Guess I'm not being real careful with this, just getting it on. This is, after all, kind of beat up armor, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Should get the inner sides. Alright, so now I got that kind of going on. Now I'm going to take this same color, I'm going to add a little more steel to it and brighten it up just a little bit. Actually brighten it up quite a bit. I'm going to take most of this off. Just using the flat part of the brush. And for the leather part, we're going to do a dark brown. Once I'm done with this, I'll come back on just the straight steel and do this again, just hit the high spots. Okay, let's go back on straight steel. I didn't want to go straight to the steel. I wanted to kind of work my way up to it. Just really using the flat part of the brush. Bring out the details in the sculpt. And then to the steel, I'm going to add some silver. I'm going to hit the edges. I'm not sure if it's showing up in camera, but this thing's got a lot of nice texture sculpted into it. There's a nice dark metallic look to it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take got some burnt color. How bright is this? Burnt iron. Burnt iron might be a good color. Oh, it's not bright enough. Let me shake it up a little bit. Pale burnt metal. That's a good one. It's got a little warmth to it. Pale burnt metal. Add a little bit of that to this. A little more. There we go. We're going to hit the high spots. And these will get more work done later when I do the weathering and everything. This is just to kind of get the base done. Now we're starting to look like something. Hit the top of this. This will be warm pretty good. Eventually I'll go back in with some bare silver and add scratches and stuff. That's going to be towards the very end of this. That's looking pretty good. Do the same thing on this one. Yeah, so the boots and the base will take me a good part of the day. And then tomorrow's actually my 20th wedding anniversary. Spending it at home because the COVID thing. Normally I'd be getting home from Wonderfest today, but that got postponed till October, so I'm not sure if I'm going to go. I'm going to try to go. It all depends if the boss will let me go. Depends on if I have a job. I don't know. We'll see if I may not have a job. Alright, so I'm going to just do some pale burnt metal by itself. I like this because it's not straight silver. It's got some nice warmth to it. Oops, a little too much. Let's wipe it off. So I'm coming from this area, this way, from the edge in, so that this hits the edges mostly. This will be a fun piece to do because this will be something, a subject matter I normally don't tackle, which is kind of like these monster fantasy things. So this is a lot of this stuff will be new for me as far as the processes go. Mainly when I get to a skin. Okay, this is looking really good. So you can see that in camera. Okay, I'm going to do one more level. I'm going to do a little bit of pale burnt metal. I'm going to add a few drops of this chrome. It's not actually chrome, it's just really bright. It's really bright. If I get a little too much on there, I can just kind of wipe it off a little bit, hopefully. This will look like worn metal. I think we're getting there. Just go slow, little by little. You go much too fast, and it's much. This looks pretty good. That's looking pretty sharp. And we'll seal this, and then we'll work on the leather. And like I said, this will get further weathering. Once everything is basically painted, then I'll do the weathering, where the boots are on the base. He's all put together. So when I do weathering, I usually do it all at the same time, so it's consistent. Because who knows, my mood may change on how I want to do something by the time I get to that step. So try to do that all at the same time. So I think I'll do maybe some splattered mud and stuff on the boots and the base. I could probably do a little bit of that today, because it's just going to really hit the bottom. Okay. I think that's looking pretty good. All right. Just gonna go ahead and hit everything a little bit. I got just a tiny, tiny bit of this on my brush, so I'm gonna just kind of hit everything a little bit, and then I'll bring out the textures in the sculpt. When you have the tiniest amount of paint on your brush, you want to bring out, if you've got some really subtle details in the sculpt, just the smallest amount of paint on your brush, so it's barely indiscernible, and then you just kind of put it on there and you see all the little details in there. So I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to seal this, and then we will work on the leather. All right, continuing on with the metal here. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming in with some of this just straight up chrome on a small brush, and I'm just kind of painting in some basically bare metal areas real light to simulate damage and stuff on the edges. It's kind of random. On the high spots, worn off metal. It's like this. I'll do this kind of both pieces. This is just going on top of the dry brushing we did. Just kind of dab it up and down. The high spots, the little sharp edges where metal would get worn off easier. It's like this, pretty simple. Try to make it look as natural as possible. These tips will kind of do solid and fade this effect out a little bit. So another little different technique on top of the dry brushing to kind of simulate worn metal. Any kind of high spot, hit a little harder. Take a lot of the excess paint off, stipple it on. This looks pretty harsh right now, but once we go and add the other weathering elements, it'll blend in better. Right now, I just gotta get the metal, basically the metal work done. And we go in there with some washes and pigments and stuff later on. It'll look much more natural. So I'm going to do this around and then we'll come back. Okay, so I went through and did that. I think these are pretty much where I need them to be, nice and worn. So now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about sealing those for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the leather part of the boots. And from photos I've seen them painted brown and black. I think we'll go with a dark brown. So we're going to hand paint the leather first with some let's see what I want to do. I'll be right back. All right, sorry, I want to get some black styrene res here in my palette, and I think I'm going to mix into that. Let's see, I don't want leather tan, I want a dark. Maybe some transparent cocoa brown. I want to add a little brown to it. Let's see if that does anything to it. Maybe not. Maybe what I should do is do this and then go back and do a wash of the cocoa brown. So I'm just going to go in here with this. This should brush on pretty easily. I don't have to worry about masking anything because I can just take the brush right up underneath all that metal detail. So on the Hellboys I typically will hand brush this black styrene res on for the black pants. Now I got some of this transparent cocoa brown, which just thin this out a little bit. I'm not seeing any brown, so we're gonna put this on, then we're gonna go back and I'm gonna maybe do some washes on top of it. Don't have to worry about the bottom because that hasn't been touched at all with paint. It's pretty easy to cut in underneath that metal armor here with the brush. Just let the paint flow underneath it. Here with the hair dryer, and I'll do another couple coats. I basically just want to cover up kind of the metal dry brushing I did earlier. I got on this part of the boot. And if I see a little bit through, it's not that big of a deal because by the time I'm done with all the other steps, you're not going to see it. Good camera. I never can tell because I record on my phone, which is over here on a little tripod, so I'm not looking through the camera while I'm doing this. Alrighty. It's pretty good. Hit with the hairdryer a little bit, and then I kind of going to smooth it out a little bit because it's pretty runny. It's pretty thin. Oops. Got a little bit on the middle. No big deal. Just wipes right off. All right, let's do this one again. And this styler is black, isn't like a super dark pitch black. It's yeah, there's different tones of black, just like there's different tones of white. It's got a little bit of blue in it, ever so slightly, and it's not completely pitch black, so it's a good base for something like this. Yeah, if I get the boots and base done today, for the most part, I'll be in good shape. Tomorrow I'll do the skin. I think the skin will take me a full day, for the most part. Alright, let's see here. That's pretty good. Let's see what happens. I add a little. Again, this is how I play. I just play. I play with colors until I get what I want. So this is just some transparent cocoa brown by GarageKits.us. Just gonna take this and kind of flow this on top. Basically, just gonna kind of tint this a little bit so it's not just black. Just put it on real wet and just let it kind of do its thing. And then we do some dry brushing to bring out the texture of the sculpt. And then we go with some oils to bring out the folds and stuff. So now this stuff, this transparent paint actually gets kind of sticky as it dries. So I just kind of work it until it kind of gets to the point where it's tacking up pretty good. And I'll just paint the bottom of the boots solid black in the end. So this one's got that cocoa brown on it. It's kind of shiny, and this one doesn't. You can see a slight difference. So let's do it to this one. Okay. It's good. Oops. Keep thinking that glove is a towel. It's not. So this dry is kind of shiny. So we'll seal this before I do the next step. What we don't want to do is get. Ooh, that's kind of a nice little happy accident. I got a little bit of this cocoa brown on that metal. I actually like what it did. I may go back and do a little wash of this on top. So accidentally, when I was blow drying this, a little bit of this got on the metal. I want to see what that looks like. So this is got just a little bit on my brush. Come in here and add some different tones to this. Ooh, that's pretty. I'm gonna do this. I like the way it's looking. It's real light. See little happy accidents all the time. Take most of it off. So that's another little layer of dimension. Yeah, I like that. I love happy accidents. That's half my work is a happy accident. Here, put some down here in this kind of detail line. That's nice. I'm not sure if you're seeing it in the camera, but it gives a really nice little additional tone to this, especially if I add it in the shadows. Yeah, it's nice. Nice little thing that happened there. All right, let me do that to this other one just a little bit, and then we'll seal it. And we'll do some dry brushing on the leather. can see I'm not being super careful with it. I'm just kind of putting it where I kind of think this might look good. Pick up some of the metal off my hand, which I don't want to do. Now it's kind of cool here too. Another little happy accident. It kind of reactivated that silver a little bit. Kind of gives it a nice little effect. So I didn't seal this first, so I'm kind of digging that. I'm learning. Every time I do something, I learn something new or discover a new thing I can do with the paint. You work wet on wet, then things happen. Sometimes, most times, things happen that you don't want to happen. Sometimes you get discover little things. A little too much. Just dab it off. Sorry, I try to stay in frame, but I need to see what I'm doing at the same time. Okay. Kind of digging that. Now the metal doesn't look so cold. Got some warmth to it, which I like. Okay. It's looking pretty cool. Digging that. All right, let's take a look at this one again before we go seal it. So this actually is nice because this is just kind of the precursor to what I was going to do later on with some pastels and stuff. I'm going to go add the weathering. This is kind of a little pre-weathering, which is looking really nice. So it'll be a long video. Some guys like them, some guys don't. I just record as I go, so you guys can see what I do. Try to keep it in frame. So you see it just kind of draw in that line, and just use this to kind of blend that edge. works out really good. Okay. It's a really nice subtle tone right there. Okay. Feels looking pretty good. All right, so you let this dry on the black part a little while. It's still pretty sticky. And you let it dry enough. I'll hit it with the hairdryer a little bit here for a few minutes, and then I can seal it. And I can go in there and start doing bring out the leather texture in there. So I'll do that and come back. All right, so I went and sealed those. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit of I was gonna do some dry brushing, but I'm gonna do some of my stippling technique first. I'm gonna do some of this Deco Art or acrylic craft paint. This is just espresso color, kind of a darkish brown. So I put a little bit on my brush, take some of it off, and this is just gonna add to the texture of the sculpt. Stipple it on. And this craft paint's pretty thin. There's not a lot of pigment, so this will lend itself to this technique because you'll be able to see all the tones underneath. Again, just lots of thin layers of paint. Rather than just doing one color and then dry brushing on top of it or something. So this is going on in a nice color. I'll tone down a little bit as it dries. Go a little heavier on the bottom. So on top of this, we're going to go one more tone a little bit lighter after this, I think. A little too much there. I'm not going to seal between this step. I'm just going to work wet on wet. How they blend together pretty good. I got a little too much here on the top of this boot. I'm going to work it a little bit more. Go back to this one. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with maybe a little bright. Actually, I'm going to mix a little bit of this. Come on. Well, let's see. This is cocoa bean. I'm going to mix that in a little bit. Take a little bit of this black over here that I have from the Stymel Res. Darken it down a little bit. got a little too much orange in it for my liking, so I'm gonna add a little black to it. Usually don't recommend adding black to anything, it just kills the color. It doesn't darken it, it actually takes the color out. So you're really not just darkening it, you're changing the color completely because it absorbs the color. Yeah, so this is giving me a nice little effect here. If I get too much on, just take my shitty rag and dab it off a little bit. That's pretty good. Too much on. Just like that. Now we're getting some nice texture in there. Bottoms a little bit. Alright, that's looking really good. So I'm going to clean out my brush from that. I'm going to seal this. And then I'll be back. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I mixed up a little bit of that first color and a secondary color. The first two that I stippled on, mix those up a little bit, and I have this kind of orangey color here. And I'm dry brushing this on very, very lightly to bring out the folds and stuff. And again, I'm just using the flat part of the brush. Just like this. Hit the top of the boot pretty heavily. And this part that points up. So use the flat part, you bring out the details in the sculpt. And a little bit of stippling I did a second ago has a little texture to it too. So now I got this really nice kind of dark brown leather going on down here. Just like that. Where's the other one? It's right here. Doesn't take a whole lot, just a little bit. And I'll seal this one more time and go in with some oils. Okay. It's looking pretty good. It's got a nice dark leathery brown sole to the boot. Alright, so we'll seal this and then we'll come back. Alrighty, so we sealed those again. Now we're going to come in with some 502 1-aptone oils. This is a shadow brown and this is wash brown. And I tend to like to use, when I'm doing this technique, I tend to like to use them straight without thinning. So I'll do is I'll get a flat brush here. And I got them on cardboard here to help draw the oils out. And I like to kind of come over here and mix up a color. Got more. And I just want a little bit on my brush. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get these shadows a little bit. But I'm just using black. I'm using this really dark brown. I'll blend it all together. Again, this is very light. And I'll let this dry for a little while before I seal it. Doesn't take a lot. But I'm seeing the other colors underneath this as I do this. Let me add just the tiniest bit of black. My shadow brown's not quite dark enough. A little bit of black. I'll mix all three of these together. So right here. It's kind of my color right here. Really started to love using oils. They're pretty damn forgiving. It's like right here, I want to bring out this shadow a little bit. Hold on. Come up on my phone. Good, we're still recording. I now have a smart Samsung watch, so I'm going to take some of this black. I'm just going to kind of draw a line where his wrinkle is, and then I'm going to soften it up a little bit. Just like that. Here, and just kind of draw a shadow in and soften it up. Okay, so this side has had oils and this side has not. So you can see a slight difference. So we're going to do that over here. Okay, it's looking good. So once I'm done with this part, then this is pretty much it for the boots until I do the weathering. So I get them together and do the weathering. All right, it's looking really, really good. Okay, well my camera stopped recording for some reason. I think my phone overheated. But here are our boots on the base. I think it's looking really, really good so far. So yeah, so I think that's a nice contrast between the base and everything. And this will get a little bit of weathering. I'll do some dust effects and I'll probably do some mud splattering and stuff. But I think it looks pretty good for now. So I'm going to call this done for the day. And then tomorrow I will move on to his skin. I'm going to look at a bunch of references for that too because I'm going to do some veining and stuff. So I anticipate the skin taking the better part of a day to get the skin done. So there you go. Pretty good progress today. I'm really happy with this. So stay tuned for the next work in progress video on this. As always, thanks for watching.